Hi there, this is Brad from Albion Fireworks. We're located in Albion, Wisconsin, right on the corner of Highway 51 and Albion Road. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about mortars and what to be looking for when you're buying a mortar and some of the safety tips in lighting mortars off. Okay, here we have some different examples of some mortar sets that we have here at Albion Fireworks. And I just wanted to show you a little bit about the variety in terms of the shells, the sizes of the shells, and then some of the safety features that you need to consider when purchasing a mortar kit. The mortar kits, typically what people enjoy about those is that you light each one by themselves. Basically how the mortar kits come is they'll each have their own individual shell. Now we'll see a difference in types of shells. So we have this, which we call kind of a canister style, and then this we actually call a shell. And you can see there's a little bit of a difference in size. Now let me explain a little bit about how these work. First, you have your basic shell here. Now this portion right here is the charge that's going to send the firework up in the air. This is the actual launching charge. The top part right here, this round circular part, this is the actual firework itself. This is what's going to contain the display that explodes once it gets up into the sky. Now if we look at this, this is what we call a canister. Now the canister is a lot bigger. It's the same basic concept. There's the charge right here that sends the firework in the air. It's the same size as the shell for the most part. But if we look at the firework is much bigger, which typically means that it's going to be a much bigger display. Now, the benefits or disadvantages, however you want to look at it, between the two, because people would say, well, if this one's bigger, why don't you just sell these? Well, the difference is these will go higher. They typically are lighter. They have the same amount of charge, which is usually 1.5 grams, and that charge will send this up into the air much higher, and some people like that to get it way up in the air. This charge, however, isn't going to go quite as high, but again, your display is going to be more massive. So there are some pros and cons to each. It depends on what kind of display that you want to use for your 4th of July party. So those are the different types of shells, and we even have those different size shells. Like here I've got this kit, for example, and we'll take a look at the shell size here, so you can kind of see that these shells are a little bit bigger than this particular shell set, which means that it's going to be a little bit of a bigger display on these ones here. Now if we look at these shells compared to the canisters are still much bigger, noticeably bigger. So you do have different even size shells. Now if we look way over here at the smaller end here, these holiday shells, they're very small, but these are nice because they don't go quite as high, and they typically have quite a nice report to them, or a nice bang. Because they are low to the ground, you tend to hear it a lot more. It tends to feel like it's a little bit louder than some of the bigger shells. Then we have, obviously we saw these sizes here. Now if we walk all the way over to these Predator shells, this is a 3-inch shell. This is one single break. This is one firework in here. Now if we look at the size difference between the 3-inch versus the canister, we see a very huge difference. This firework is much bigger, much louder, is going to go much higher, and have a much bigger break on it. And you can see that just in the basic size itself. And so those are one thing that you want to look for in terms of shell size. Now I do have another set here. Now this is what's called a triple, because we do sell mortar kits that have multiple breaks in them. So all the shells that I've shown you so far have one firework in it. So this is going to launch in the air, it's going to explode one time, have one break. This particular shell is going to have 3 distinct breaks. If you'll see, there's 3 firework balls that are in there. Same size charge, 1 break, 2 break, 3 breaks. Now we have double breaks where there's just 2. We have quad breaks where there's 4. We have 5 breaks, and we have 6 breaks. So we do have a wide variety of different types of mortar sets. And if you look on the back wall there, these are all the mortar sets all the way back there that we have here at Albion Fireworks in terms of different types of mortars. We have shells, we have canisters, we have the multiple breaks, we have multi-kits, we have lots of different things. So there's a whole wide variety of different types of effects that you can get when you're purchasing your fireworks. But if you do see a firework shell like this, and you see, definite different firework balls in there, that's what that means. Now, if we take the Predator shell that I just showed you, we'll see it's about the same size. The difference is that this is one firework. This is going to go one time, whereas this is going to go multiple times. So, let's talk a little bit about some safety features in terms of lighting off your mortar. How this works, you're going to open up your kit. You're going to find each kit, usually for every 6 shells that you have, you're going to have 1 tube. Now the tubes can be different. This one, for example, has a polymer liner on the inside, which means that it's a lot more durable. It's going to take a lot more heat. It's going to handle a lot more pressure from the shell that comes out of it. This kit, however, if you look, it's just cardboard. The very hard pressed cardboard, which means this is going to take a little bit more of a beating. You're probably not going to be able to use this after 6 shells. It's going to be, the cardboard in there is going to be pretty charred. It's going to be kind of beat up a little bit, a little ratty. So you want to be careful of that. Sometimes they come with actually a hard PVC tube. The bigger sets, like we have some called Excalibur or Eagle's Pride, those have an actual PVC type of tube. Now, what you want to do when you open up your firework, the first thing you need to do is unravel your wick. And the wick is going to be fairly long. Usually they're kind of tied in a circular kind of pattern. And you're going to unwind that, okay? Now, there's a little, it's hard to see on this one, there's a little string that holds the wick in place. If you'll see, the wick goes into the charge, comes all the way along the side, and then it goes through a little string. On this one, it's a little bit easier to see. If we look right here, you'll see there's a little string right here, that little black string. I don't know if you can see that. There it is. That little black string right there. Now, a mistake that some people make is they take the wick out of that little black string or out of that cotton string. And the problem with that is that then you have the habit of putting your firework in upside down. What you want to do is you want to hold your firework so that your charge is on the bottom. You're holding onto the wick. As long as it's in that string, you're going to hold the firework in the correct manner. You're going to insert your firework into your tube. And you should make sure that that's all the way on the bottom. We don't want that to fit tight in this tube. We want it to be able to slide in all the way to the bottom without anything interfering with it getting to the bottom. Sometimes people will take this and give it a couple taps to make sure it's down there. Now, what I like to do personally is I like to put my tubes onto a board, a piece of plywood, an old door, anything that's going to be a little bit more stable, and I'll pop a screw right into the plastic base of this, and then that resists the temptation for this tube to tip in any direction, because when we light this wick, it's going to go in pretty forcefully, and sometimes that causes that tube to rattle a little bit, and if it's not on a stable surface, that tube can fall, and if it's pointing right at your audience, you could have quite an exciting time. So make sure that you've got a nice stable surface that your tube sits on. If you want, pop a screw in there so you can screw it down into the deck or screw it onto a piece of wood, and then basically all you need to do is light that wick and walk away. That's going to burn all the way down into your firework, ignite the launch sequence, and up it goes. And then I would definitely make sure that you let the tube cool off before you try to use that same tube again. If you get multiple sets of mortars, sometimes you can just use them in succession. So you go, mortar number 1 in the first tube, number 2 in the second tube, mortar number 3 in the third tube, and then you rotate them through rather than using one tube over and over and over again, because that's when you run into problems. Now, what does happen if you run into problems? Well, I've got an example here. This is from an Excalibur. If you'll see here, this is a heavy PVC tube, very strong, very heavy-duty tube. This particular one, someone put the firework in upside down, and you can see the amount of force and energy that those fireworks have. It just blew the bottom of this tube right to pieces. So you want to make sure that you're using precautions, making sure that you're putting the fireworks in the correct way so that you don't have any kind of accidents and wind up having to make a trip to the hospital on your fireworks show. So here's some different examples of the mortar kits that we have available here at Albion Fireworks. Mortars are a great, very popular firework for people to do in their shows. These are some different safety tips and some different strategies into how you can incorporate mortars into your show. They're a great addition to anybody's 4th of July party. So this is Brad from Albion Fireworks, and remember, if I'm running, you better keep up.